Welcome back to another season of Rounding Third podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Bratton, with our co-host here, Brian Ogden, our critically acclaimed sports information director. Today's guest from just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, Kylee Edwards. We'll get to her in just one second, but super pumped about the season. We're right around the corner. Today we'll load the bus. Matter of fact, the bus will deadhead down with all of our equipment. We'll fly out tomorrow to get down to Clearwater, Florida. But it comes as no surprise that it also falls on National Girls and Women's and Sports Day. So we got the little coffee depot here from the little ceremony that we had in the Bryan Building just a few minutes ago. And now we kick off this year's Rounding Third with our first guest, Kylee Edwards. Kylee, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Kylee, National Girls and Women's Sports Day. We've done a lot this year to look back at the people who kind of paved the way for you, and it was fun to get to hear some of their stories about when they first started in sports. For you, like, how old were you when you first picked up a bat and a ball, first picked up a basketball? I know you're very big into basketball. When did your sports journey start?
Yeah, my parents always say from a young age, I've always had a ball in my hand. It was either a basketball or a softball. I would probably say 2 or 3 years old, I was always having some type of ball in my hand.
Yeah, and like I said, really great opportunity for us to look back and talk to some of those people who were on the first teams in all of our different sports across campus. And we'll get a chance this weekend to actually go down, and you haven't gotten to meet some of the 80s ladies yet, but they'll be in Florida. They try to make a trip every year, and they've gone ahead and let us know that they'll be down there. So we'll get to see them this weekend when we get down there into Clearwater.
Yeah, and for those that have been in our new indoor facility, we hit on that a lot last year. I think it really led to a lot of our big offensive numbers, big offensive output that we had a year ago. But in our main lobby area in our indoor facility is a very nice, large picture, takes up the whole wall, and it highlights 3 or 4 of those 80s ladies that we're talking about. And some of those folks will be down there this weekend. I believe they came down to Clearwater last time we went 2 years ago for the ESPN Classic down there. So excited to meet some of the ones that kind of helped get softball go to Mississippi State. It's been highly documented, or well documented, I should say, those early teams. And then there was about a 10 or 15-year hiatus, and then it picked back up as an SEC sanctioned sport in the late 90s. So certainly excited about all the folks that kind of came ahead of us to help pave the way, and it certainly falls off on a really good day with the NGSWD. So excited to meet them, excited to get going, and I like to say the word excited a lot, particularly as we get into week 1, and we'll have plenty more content after the weekend as we start highlighting week 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, tough week 1. It was 4 of the 5 teams are ranked in at least one of the polls.
Yep.
As a coaching staff, and then also for you, Kylee, as the hitters, as you've prepared for this, kind of what is the mindset going into this first weekend, even though there is a very tough task in front of you? Yeah,
I think we want to, as coaches, you're trying to do everything that you can to prepare yourself for success in the postseason, and you want to challenge yourselves early on. This is really, in Coach Ricketts' 6 years being a head coach, you're starting to see a very loaded, if you will, non-conference slate, and you're seeing that this weekend with 4 of the 5 teams, like Brian just said, ranked in the top 25 in one poll or another. A couple of them are receiving votes in the top 10. We're not just receiving votes; they actually are ranked in the top 10. It's a very pitcher-heavy schedule this weekend when you consider 2 are first-team All-Americans and 2 more were freshman All-Americans out of the 5 teams we're going to face. So some really good challenges ahead of us, really cool opportunities ahead of us to get in and get after it, and we're excited about Duke and Texas Tech on day 1. Texas Tech, of course, brought in the reigning National Player of the Year from Stanford. She transferred into there. We faced them in the Stanford Regional this past year, matter of fact, up in Palo Alto. And, Jordy Ball coming off of a knee injury a year ago, but a first-team All-American, national champion when she was at Oklahoma. So certainly excited about that. And then Duke's a World Series team from a year ago as well. So we'll come out right out of the gate with a good challenge ahead of us. Our girls are hungry. We're excited to play. We've had some really good weather the last few weeks. Even though our friends in New Orleans kind of got a lot of snow, we've managed to miss a lot of that. But certainly excited to hit the ground running. This is the second time we've done this tournament since Coach Ricketts has been the head coach. Last time we were down there,
it was her first weekend.
It was the shortened 2020 season, but we flew down there. Had a little bit of some turbulence, if you will. We had a couple of flights get redirected into Orlando to get down to Tampa. But we went 5-0, had a really good start to that season. That was the 2020 season that, like I said a minute ago, was shortened with the COVID. But, yeah, 5-0 to start down there. So a pretty good tournament for us that year. Hopefully we can rebound and do the same type of thing this year.
And, Kylee, without obviously giving away any of the secrets, just as you've run through preparing for those names and those arms that T-Brat mentioned, from a hitter's mentality, what do you take into opening weekend?
It's just another game. I mean, I'm super excited to be out there. The girls are super excited to be out there. and we have a really, really, really gritty team. So it's just another game to us.
Yeah, grit is something when we did our preseason interviews came up a lot.
Yeah.
We asked everybody on the team, and we'll put it out later today, to just describe the identity of the team in one word, and grit or gritty seemed to be the constant theme. What does that mean to you when you say grit? Explain to people what you mean by gritty.
Yeah, all across the board on our team, everybody on the team is so hardworking. It's not just doing what we're supposed to be doing, going to weights, going to practice. It's just the extra work we're putting in. And you look at every girl across our roster, every single one of them is doing something to get better, and that's super hard to find.
Yeah, as we kind of shift into the season to come, you've talked a lot about the work you've done in the off season, and for you, maybe at times we're viewed more as a defensive player, and we will dive into the defense numbers because they're really, really good. But you've talked a lot about trying to shift into putting more work into your swing. What does the off season look like for you as you get ready for this year?
Yeah, so I played summer ball in Florida, and I got with a new hitting instructor, and my main thing is I wanted to add power. I had natural power, but I started going to the weight room a lot more. I've gained some weight of just muscle, and just adding power to my speed is really what I was going to focus on, and just finding gap to gats and being more consistent at the plate. So this whole off season, I think I hit literally every single day. Like, I wore myself out, but looking back at it now, like, it's paying off.
You've mentioned, Coach Bratton, just the desire for the team to get more well-rounded than maybe it was in past years. And power's maybe always been that, but as Kylie's talking about getting more well-rounded where she needed to add power, just how have you seen this team evolve over maybe the last 5-10 years to be able to be a threat in kind of every area?
Yeah, I think athleticism as a major key. I think the focus on this group is almost that total package, if you will. I think Marcy, our strength coach, and Sean Cervelis, our nutrition coordinator, I think those two folks working hand in hand with the rest of our sports performance team. I think you're really starting to see some people that maybe came in and didn't have a whole lot of home run pop. Now all of a sudden they're leaving the yard almost on a routine basis. So those have been some things we're excited to see in practice and in BP and sessions and those types of things. And I think with the overall speed dynamic, if you will, you mentioned the defensive part too. It certainly helps us get to more balls in the infield. We talked about turning double plays earlier before we jumped on the show. But that's a trend you're seeing kind of improve in the right direction over the last 5 or 6 years. So I think the overall athleticism, a well-balanced lineup, if you will. I think there's some speed there. I think there's some power there. I think there's ability to hit for average. I think there's some selfless teammates, too, that aren't afraid to play some small ball and move some runners and hit behind runners. It may be an 0 for 1 in the scorebook, but you're hitting behind a runner at 2 and getting them to third base. I think you're going to see a lineup this year that's excited about manufacturing runs, and that's something that we've certainly had some major home run hitters in the past. Madison Kennedy kind of really blew up a year ago and with 19 home runs on her way to an All-American year for us. And we've had plenty of All-American home run hitters with Mia Davidson, Foley, Lou. You start thinking about the big power numbers of the past. And, we know them well as Thunder and Lightning. Mia helped co-host the show a couple years ago. And, but you forget about the Cat Moores, kind of that lefty dynamic speed kid that she nicknamed herself Drizzle, I believe, or maybe it was Sprinkle as one of the two. But, she hit behind me and five. She had 13 homers and 50 RBIs that same year, too. So I think what you see is a lot more Cat Moore type, really some go-getters that can steal a bag for you and leave the yard, too. And I think that's what's been exciting. Like I said, really tip of the cap to Marcy. I thought she's done a tremendous job with our players this offseason. We've seen growth just from some of the new players coming in. We had 10 newcomers that we signed this offseason. And you started really seeing some jumps between August when the girls got on the campus into now. And our times have gotten faster. Our arm strength's gotten faster. Our exit velocity numbers are improving. So there's a lot to be really excited about with this crop of players this 2025 season.
You mentioned newcomers, and 5 of those newcomers were on the Softball America Freshman to Watch list. 2 of them have been playing right next to you a lot in practice over at second base with Morgan Stiles, Zion Romero. What have you seen from the young group? You were in their shoes a year ago. What have you seen from them? What are you trying to share with them about what year one is going to be like?
Yeah, playing next to Z and Morgan, I've developed a relationship with them on the field, and both of them next to me, like it doesn't matter which one's out there, we both have that connection to turn double plays. And something I've expressed to the freshmen is this, like the game is so much more difficult than what it was in high school and in travel ball. And just, I want to be that person for them. I want to be the person that they can go to and talk to them about whatever is going on. So just making sure I vocal pointed that to them at the beginning of the season, just knowing that I'm always there for them.
You mentioned double plays. Last year, I think it was 10 double plays for you. It was the most by a shortstop here since, I want to say it was 2016 or so. It was a long time ago. And as a team, the team fielding percentage was the highest it's been in about a decade. Talk to me about the pride you take in defense and kind of the work that you put in. Like you said, you have that chemistry, but the work that you put in to be able to be quick up the middle.
Yeah, defensive has always been a love for me. Taking ground balls in my driveway with my dad, it's just always been a passion of mine. And I think my athletic ability really got me away with a lot of things when I was younger. But when I got here, Zach, we worked about the fundamentals and like breaking down how to read a better hop, getting the short hop. And that's just transitioned my game into a whole nother level that I personally thought I could never do. So just having those freshmen and having everybody else take pride in what Zach is teaching us, because there's so much knowledge that I never knew and most of us girls never knew. And we're like, wow. So just leaning on him and letting him guide us has been a special thing this season.
Coach Bratton, you take the lead with the outfield group. Sierra had an errorless season, first time we've had that from an outfielder in a very long time. What have you seen with the outfield that has contributed to that team defense?
Well, I think it's the mentality. It's the competitive nature. We talked about gritty to open up the show. And a lot of what that grit means to me is this attitude and this fearless approach, like, hey, we're going to go get everything we possibly can. Kylee plays with that on the infield. There's not a single ball hit on the left side of the infield that she doesn't think she can get to. Sacco's the same way in center field. There's not a single ball off the bat that she doesn't think that she can get to. And that high level of expectation on the defensive side of the ball, I think, is what brings a lot of the other players up around them too. And you saw that last year with Sacco made Briley better in the outfield. Sacco made Paige better in the outfield. Sacco made Jesse, Ella, all the others. Kiara Sales is a name that you mentioned your summer ball down in Florida this year. Kiara played in Texas and really had a tremendous offseason that I think is going to help propel her into this year, kind of a name to look out for as we head into this 2025 season. But I think just that pride in wanting to be the best you possibly can be. And I think that's two things that Sacco, that you mentioned, and Kylee here too, they make the others around them better. If they're captains of the infield and Kylee, and Sacco's kind of the captain of the outfield, like they're leading their brigade or their platoon, if you will, and just doing a tremendous job of holding each other accountable. I think that's something that when you do hard things together, particularly in the weight room, and I think that's something that Marcy has helped kind of instill in this year's squad, you do tough things together, you know that it's coming from a place of, hey, I want you to be the best player you possibly can be. It's a level of accountability that, hey, Sales, you can dive and make that play. I've seen you do it. I know you can do it. And then it's just the encouragement to be able to go make a play that maybe 6 or 9 months ago you thought you couldn't get to. So I think it's a leading by example between these two, between Kylee and Sacco there on both the infield and the outfield. Ella and Jesse do a tremendous job behind the plate. We return a depth of experience behind the plate as well. And it starts between there and the circle. I mean, the battery goes a long way. And, you talked about the double plays that Kylee had last year with 10. It helps that Josie's help manipulating ground balls to the pull side. So she's kind of getting that kind of contact and allowing her defense to make plays behind her. And whereas Aspen might have been a little more fly ball oriented, Josie seemed to be a little more ground ball oriented, and kind of really relying on our much improved defense to help us, navigate, some tough situations and navigate some jams and kind of get out of some jams and keep teams at bay. We say all the time, we're hunting for a big inning. We want that 3 spot. We take big pride on, you got the first run, you got the second run. Can you get the third run in an inning? And that's what we define as constituting a big inning, is 3 or more runs. And a lot of times when you get to the 3 spot in that inning, you're leading to 5 runs. And 5 runs really has kind of been our standard under Coach Ricketts as a head coach. We've had a high level of success anytime we've scored 5 or more runs. I think we've won 80% of our games or something along those lines.
You've stolen my notes.
I stole Brian's notes, but he was hitting on it earlier.
The numbers are on there, but
Yep.
the magic number there, you're right. I think it's about 80% of the games over the last 2 years, or 80% of our wins the last 2 years have come when we've scored 5.
Yep.
And the record is 100-something wins and like 15 losses under Ricketts when we've gotten to five runs.
And I think that's just kind of the nature of how softball is progressing. It's a game that's really taking the country by storm. You start looking at the ratings on TV, the World Series ratings, the amount of exposure. We're lucky to play in the Southeastern Conference where we're as televised as often as we are. And the days of the 1-0 ball games, the 2-1 ball games are kind of a thing of the past, it seems like, when you look across the board and how good offenses are and how good pitching is. And really the whole, 1 through 9 of a lot of the top 25 teams, you're seeing folks that they defend it, pitch it well, and can score on offense. So it's an exciting brand of ball to watch, and we're excited to be out there to take the field and be challenged this weekend coming up.
I want to go back to something you said about both Kylee and Sierra, and when you talked about the leadership and making the other people around them better. I can remember, I think it was the Ole Miss game. Sack is a very loud individual, as we know, and from the press box, we could hear Sierra yelling at Paige, "Go get that ball, dive, you've got it." And Paige dives, makes a diving play. A lot of times that's not something that maybe a TV microphone picks up. A lot of times we can't hear it in the stands. Everybody talks about the importance of communication, and a lot of times I think at the lower levels of baseball and softball, it's like, okay, how many outs are there? Where are we making the play? Cutoffs, that communication. But that next level of communication for you guys on the field, for the people who don't get to sit at practice and hear that every day, what are the things that you're telling people pre-pitch when the ball is in the air that go beyond just hey, this is where we're throwing the ball, this is where the play needs to be made?
Yeah, it just comes down to like knowing your players and who's surrounding you, because you can't talk to the same player the same way like I would talk to Sierra. So it's just knowing who's around you, who you're playing next. Me and Nadia have really good communication on the left side, just like knowing if there's a short hop, Nadia's going to get it and I'm right behind her. Or if Josie's pitching, I'm like, roll me a ground ball, like I got your back. Me and Riley are talking every play, like ball to me, I go to you, ball to you, we're turning two. It's just like the little things and demonstrating that we have you. Like to the pitchers, we're talking to them constantly, like let them hit it. Your defense has your back. You have nothing to worry about it. Throw a strike, we're here for you. So it's just that level of communication. And then Ella behind the plate, if there's a bunt, we're going 2-1. Just letting everybody know that your defense is there for you. And just like communication is a huge piece of softball. I don't think people realize how big of a part it is, but communication and mentalities, I think, goes a long way. It goes a farther way than most people think.
And even for those, again, that maybe haven't played at that higher level, it continues off the field as well.
Oh,
I know you all have talked a
absolutely.
lot about kind of how you discuss pitchers and things in the dugout and what those conversations look like even once you've stepped off the field. But as we continue on and move on with the show here, you're a big travel fan. Mm-hmm. And I know we've got a lot of players now from places outside of Mississippi. So few trips on the schedule this year. One's going to get us somewhat close to your hometown when we get up to Northwestern. New thing this year with the flags on the back of the helmet, and you kind of got a chance to talk last week about what that means to you and being one of the first players from Indiana. So, yeah, just talk a little bit about your helmet flag and kind of when did you find out about that? What was your thoughts?
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I was like, wow, that's awesome, because everything I love Indiana. I'm going to go back and live in Indiana. Like, family means everything to me. And I always had a dream of playing in the SEC. But to me, I was leaving my family and everybody behind. And that was, like, one of the hardest things for me. But knowing I can still represent my state and the younger girls and giving back to them and showing them that there's so much more and that you can do to push yourself. And just putting Indiana on the map of softball. Indiana's known for like a basketball school. Like everybody loves basketball in Indiana, but the talent we have in Indiana is just truly amazing.
And I know your helmet was kind of the guinea pig helmet. Yep. So Joe Farmer kind of made up a mock-up helmet with a Mississippi flag since we already had those, and there's T-Brat's number on the back. But as the coaching staff kind of went through thinking about this with him, what were those conversations like? Kind of the the mindset behind the decision to, hey, this is a cool thing we think we should do?
Yeah, I think Joe is our equipment guy. We hired him back this fall, and he's just done a tremendous job of outfitting our girls with the best Adidas swag, if you will. We like to use that word swag, quite a bit. It's kind of the buzzword and the equipment. Standard that everybody is always an arms race in terms of equipment, that sort of thing. And we're blessed to have our sponsorships with both Adidas and Mizuno. But Joe's done a tremendous job and really thinking outside the box. And I think last year we had 13 of our 22 players were from different states. And that was the most states representative on a single roster, I believe, in school history a year ago. So being able to kind of highlight that, Mississippi State's the most diverse university in the Southeastern Conference. You look at student body and all that, it's the most diverse university in the SEC. And it comes as no surprise that we kind of have some pockets of players really from all over the country. When you think of upstate New York and Ella Wazalowski, you think of Indiana with Kylee Edwards. We've got NorCal, we got SoCal, you got Lexi Sosa, you got Zion Romero, and then you got Delaney Everett from up there near Sacramento. So Coach Ricketts herself is from Northern California, San Jose. Taryn is from Southern California, the Corona area. I'm from North Mississippi, about 30 minutes away. Kind of born and raised here in the great state of Mississippi. And I think it's cool to kind of have the highlight of it's a global game. It's a national game. And I think you see that when you look at our roster. There's players from Iowa. There's players from Texas. There's players from the Northwest. There's players from the Northeast. We're not afraid to travel and get into unique areas to go recruit ball players. Josie Mayer, somebody that kind of came to mind from the state of Iowa. And then Jessie Blaine kind of can claim Iowa. You can also claim about 7 different states too. She moved around quite a bit as a kid, being in the military family and that sort of thing. So I think it's neat. It's like a little slice of home away from home. I think the NFL was one of the big brands a year ago that kind of started highlighting their players in the countries that they're from. You think of Amon-Ra St. Brown and his country's flag on the back of his helmet. And, going down the list, I think it's something that's unique. It's just kind of a way of embracing wherever you go, we go with you. And that's something that we say at Mississippi State a lot. When, Dak Prescott suits it up in Dallas, Texas, a lot of times there's a big billboard in Dallas saying wherever you go, we go with you. And that's just kind of the Mississippi State family. We're here for our kids, whether they're with us for 4 years in Strawful and then they move on and go back home or whatever. They always know that they've got the alumni base here, the fan support here, the family here that we've created in our locker room to be able to travel both near and far for our kids.
And Jesse's is going to be a little bit of an interesting one, like you mentioned. At the moment is the only helmet that doesn't have a flag on it, just because we're waiting for, she couldn't pick a state. Like you said, 7, 8 different states. I think she said she moved 12 times before she graduated high school. So instead of a state flag, we're going to put the Marine Corps flag on hers. And so just waiting on those to come in. But going to be a nice little unique touch for her that I think was really fitting, given that, like you said, for you, Indiana is very, very important to you. And for her family wasn't necessarily a specific location. It was the Marine Corps as they traveled around.
You look at Indiana, and you mentioned this a second ago. I remember being a kid watching the movie Hoosiers, right? And he goes in, Gene Hackman, he measures the goal. Hey, it's 10 foot. So obviously it's always 10 feet everywhere you go. So it's kind of a basketball state. You made that connection a minute ago, the Hoosier state. And you scored, 1,000 points in your high school basketball career?
Yeah.
What's the single game most points that you got?
I think 45.
Okay. I was thinking 54. I had it backwards. So 45, but that's the school record, right? The most points in a single game in your high school.
To give you an idea, our interns played their annual game last year. One of the team totals was 31.
There you go.
So, yeah, much better basketball player here than anyone that we have around the department.
Yeah. That's when Kayla Wingfield was here. You talked about 2016 being the last time I think we had as many double plays, and Kayla Wingfield, who was our shortstop, she was probably a freshman or maybe a junior by then. I can't remember exactly what year she was by then, but she was kind of all over the place and very much a basketball player too, like herself. Vic Schaefer's first year, I think he was trying to say, hey, does Wingfield want to play a little bit for us in basketball too, before he kind of got Big T and some of those others involved. But we like athleticism. We talked about that a minute ago. We love that kids play multiple sports. There's a lot of players on our team that grew up playing volleyball too. Jessie was a big volleyball player. As a matter of fact, her sister plays volleyball at Troy, I believe. So I think just being able to have a ball in your hand and help creating that competitive nature that you and Sacco have. Sacco talked about that a little bit with her story yesterday in our team meeting, kind of growing up playing volleyball, track, whatever was in season, Sacco kind of played it. And I think it's encouraging when you look at the different elements of different games that kind of help mold mold you into who you are. And basketball very much is a team game. You're relying on everybody else, just like softball is and baseball is and football and that sort of thing. So certainly going to be cool to look up there, and under your 67 on your helmet, you're going to have the U.S. flag and also the flag of Indiana. So be exciting to see out there.
Yeah. As we kind of land the plane, so to speak, we'll be landing a plane in Clearwater, Florida tomorrow. Coach Bratton, just kind of take us home as we get ready for these first 5 games.
Yeah, it's always fun to get the season going. We had a really good off season, like I mentioned earlier. Our kids were excited to get back. Our girls came back about 10 days before school started in January to go ahead and start getting after it and start inter-squadding and really getting ready for this week. Spent a lot of time preparing for the teams we're going to face. So certainly looking forward to this opportunity. And the bus will be at the News Park today at 2 o'clock. So if you see the Mississippi State bus riding down, it will be empty, but it'll have all of our gear on it, and then we'll fly out and meet the bus tomorrow afternoon. We're going to land, check in the hotel, do a little practice, a little walkthrough, and then get ready for a doubleheader on Friday night. So you can tune in. I think Game Changer's going to be having a lot of the games this weekend, and then we're excited to be back home next weekend to open up News Park and get ready for the 2025 slate here back at home.
Yeah, so every game is free to watch on Game Changer. A little bit of a new platform. We haven't had many games on before, but the easiest way to get to it is to just go to the schedule on hailstate.com, click the watch link, and it'll be right there, right on the front page of our team page. But you mentioned coming home next week, and as we always get ready for the season, getting to deliver season tickets to the fans that'll be there in News Park. You got to do that this week. What makes that special?
Yeah, going there and just seeing – I always knew Mississippi State had a huge fan base and how much the fans love us, but going there and actually meeting them, they are true Mississippi State fans, like down and down. And it was just awesome getting to meet them personally, because we can see them watching our games, but we never got to speak with them and talk to them. And they're just amazing people. It was so much fun going there.
Well, we will be back here next week to get things going in News Park, but that'll wrap it up for today, Mr. Coach T-Brad, if you want to do your traditional sign-off.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. We'll see you again next week. This is the Rounding Third Podcast for Kylee Edwards and Brian Ogden. I'm Tyler Bratton. Thank you, and Hail State.
Hail State.
Hail State.